Natural deadly disasters have been happening since the beginning of the species, and there are some for which we have no idea how many lives were lost. But there are also some for which we know, and it feels terrible just to think of innocent victims. So here's the list of the top 10 deadliest disasters that have ever occurred. Number 10. 1138 Aleppo earthquake, 230,000. The city of Aleppo in northeastern Syria stands on a geologic fault line dividing the tectonic Arabian plate from the African plate, and the friction between those plates renders Aleppo and the surrounding region particularly susceptible to devastating seismic events. On October 11, 1138, one of the deadliest earthquakes happened in northern Syria, and it ended with over 230,000 people being killed in Aleppo. The disaster extended beyond Aleppo and quickly spread throughout northeastern Syria. The town of Harem, which was conquered by the Crusaders, was left with a demolished castle and a church. The nearby Muslim fort of Otharib also had its citadel destroyed by the earthquake, which caused it to collapse upon and kill 600 of its defenders. Number 9. 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami, 230,000. The magnitude of a 9.1 earthquake ruptured a 900-mile wide stretch of fault line where the Indian and Australian tectonic plates meet. It was a powerful mega-thrust quake occurring where a heavy ocean plate slips under a lighter continental plate. On Sunday morning, December 6, 2004, a strong earthquake struck off the coast of Sumatra Island, Indonesia, and it set off the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, known as the Christmas or Boxing Day tsunami. The quake made it to the ocean floor to quickly rise as much as 40 meters, causing a huge tsunami. Just 20 minutes after the earthquake, the first of several 100-foot waves hit the shoreline of Banda Aceh, ending the lives of more than 100,000 people, causing many damages. Later in a series, tsunami waves spread over the coastlines in Thailand, India, Sri Lanka, killing tens of thousands more. 8 hours later, and 5,000 miles from the Asian epicenter, the tsunami claimed its final deaths on the coast of South Africa, and nearly 230,000 people were killed. So this is without a doubt one of the deadliest disasters in modern history. Number 8. 526 Antioch earthquake, 250,000. When it comes to historical quakes, right death tolls pieces of information are hard to find. But for the Antioch earthquake of AD 526, the contemporary chronicler John Malalas recorded at the time that about 250,000 people died when the earthquake hit the Byzantine city in May that year. John connected the disaster with the anger of God and reported that the fires ravaged everything in Antioch that the earthquake itself did not. The roots were shaking, literally, by the huge earthquake measured at a 7.0 on the surface wave magnitude scale, with about 18 months of aftershocks and 250,000 extra deaths. The earthquake severely destroyed the majority of buildings in Antioch, including Constantine's great octagonal church Domus Aurea, built on an island in the Oronus River. Interestingly, the houses that were closest to the mountain were the only ones to remain whole. But most of the damage was caused by the fires that raged on for many days after the earthquake. One of the victims was Euphrasia, the patriarch of Antioch, who fell into a cauldron of a pitch being used by wineskin makers. According to a 2007 paper in the Medieval History Journal, this is one of the deadliest disasters that ever happened because the city was full of tourists celebrating Ascension Day. Number 7. 1976 Tangshan earthquake, 255,000. At 4 a.m. on July 28, 1976, the city of Tangshan, China stopped existing. Literally, the city had vanished. A magnitude 7.8 earthquake was generated and caused 85% of the buildings to fall or be critically damaged, and the death toll was huge. The earthquake had ended with the failures of electronic power systems, the water supply system, the sewer system, and the telephone and telegraph systems, and radio communications, and the large coal mines and the industries dependent on the coal were destroyed. The railway and highway bridges collapsed so that the city was separated from the outside world. When you make a comparison before the earthquake occurred, Tangshan had 1 million residents, and after the earthquake, the number had been estimated that since about 1/2 were dead. Number 6. 1920 Haiyan earthquake, 273,400. Back in 1920, a terrible earthquake hit Haiyan country in central China. According to a 2010 study presented at the conference in honor of the quake's 90th anniversary, 273,400 people died in the earthquake. Most were buried in the landslides caused by the ground shaking. And according to the U.S. Geological Survey, the quake was a magnitude 7.8 and was felt all the way from the Yellow Sea to Qinghai Province on the Tibetan Plateau. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration records show that the quake destroyed 4 cities and buried many towns and villages. Number 5. 2010 Haitian earthquake, 300,000. Back in 2010, the world was shocked by the Haiti earthquake. The earthquake occurred on January 12th on the West Indian island of Hispaniola, including the countries of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. But Haiti was left with the most terrible effects since the earthquake occupied the western third of the island. However, the official death count was over 300,000 and hundreds of thousands of survivors were displaced. The earthquake hit at 4:53 p.m., some 15 miles southwest of the Haiti capital of Port-au-Prince. The first shock recorded a magnitude of 7.0 and was soon followed by 2 aftershocks of magnitudes 5.9 and 5.5. More aftershocks happened in the coming days, including another one, magnitude 5.9, that struck on January 20th at Petite Gove, a town some 35 miles west of Port-au-Prince. Haiti had not experienced such a disaster since the 18th century, the most like in power being a 1984 shock of magnitude 6.9, a magnitude 8.0 earthquake, and hit the Dominican Republic in 1946. Number 4. Bola cyclone, East Pakistan, Bangladesh, 1970, 500,000. In East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, and India's West Bengal, the Bola cyclone happened on November 12, 1970, and it holds the record as the deadliest cyclone ever. 500,000 people lost their lives due to flooding in the region. The victims were mostly the local fishermen who died in the storm, and many of the survivors were left injured. And here's a fact. 7 of the 9 most deadly tropical storms have hit Bangladesh. Now, warning systems are in effect, which lets residents leave to a higher ground before the disaster occurs. People from this area have learned that if they live in a coastal region, a region that has seen storms and flooding before, maybe it would be better if they move inland, since the changes of another major cyclone are huge. Also, the devastating Bola cyclone in November 1970 is charged with triggering the political events that led to the division of Pakistan and the creation of Bangladesh in 1971. Apathetic response to the disaster by the Pakistan government ended in a landslide electoral victory for Bengali nationalists, accompanied by a bitter and bloody civil war. However, leaving before the floodwaters hit may be the only and safest way you can be sure you can survive. Number 3. Shaanxi earthquake, 1556, 830,000. This disaster actually holds the record for the deadliest earthquake in history. The Shaanxi earthquake holds this place despite the fact that stronger earthquakes have occurred. Many people in this area, up to the time of the earthquake, resided in man-made holes dug out of silt-like soil in the hillsides around the area and lost their lives when the dwellings collapsed. The 8.0 magnitude earthquake was so bad that approximately 830,000 people lost their lives. And after the disaster, people from Shaanxi took wood and bamboo to use as rebuilding better dwellings. Number 2. The 1887 Yellow River flood, 900,000. The Yellow River in China was precariously situated above most of the land around it. In the late 1880s, recognition to a series of dikes constructed to contain the river as it passed through the farmland from central China. Over time, these dikes had silted up, slowly lifting the river in elevation. When heavy rain swelled the Yellow River in China in September 1887, it spilled over these walls into the surrounding low-lying land, inundating 5,000 square miles or 12,949 square kilometers, according to the Encyclopedia of Disasters, Environmental Catastrophes, and Human Tragedies. 11 great towns and numbers of villages were damaged. 900,000 people had died, and 2 million people were left homeless is called River of Sorrow. This is one of the deadliest disasters that have ever occurred. Number 1. Central China floods, 1931, 1.4 million. What has the world learned from Central China floods that happened back in 1931? Well, if you happen to live in the area near a big river or river system, there is always a chance that abnormal or thousand-year weather events take place, such as the Colorado floods that destroyed so much. Devastation in Colorado happened in September of 2013. However, back in 1931, China was hit by remarkably abnormal precipitation and weather. In July, the area was hit by 7 cyclones. The Yangtze and Haoi rivers swelled and spilled over their banks and dikes, which resulted in deaths caused by drowning and waterborne diseases. 1.4 million people had lost their lives, and some survivors even brought on acts of cannibalism. Well guys, we end our video here. Have you ever experienced an earthquake, or have you been part of some other disaster? Let us know in the comments section below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing videos such as this. Thanks for watching.